This is part 3 of the English 1 lecture for week 21. In part 2, we finished up by looking at how the nominative case is used when we have a pronoun that is a subject or the appositive of the subject. Now we're going to move on and look at how the nominative case is used for predicate nominatives or appositives to the predicate nominative. Here's an example of a sentence that has a predicate nominative. The winning team is they or them. Now, we have a linking verb, is, and the subject, team, is equal to they or them, whichever one we're going to say it is. So, they or them is the predicate nominative. When we have a predicate nominative, we have to use the nominative case. If we look at our chart and we look under nominative case, we see that the word they is the pronoun that is in the nominative case, not them. That's the objective case. So since this is a predicate nominative, we have to use the pronoun that is in the nominative case, which would be they. So the correct sentence is, the winning team is they. I know that doesn't sound right. It sounds a lot better to say the winning team is them. But the correct answer is the winning team is they. Let's look at another example. The grand prize winners are he and she or him and her. Again, we have a predicate nominative. We have a linking verb are, and winners is equal to he and she or him and her. So we have a predicate nominative. If we look on our chart, we see that we have to use the nominative case, and the pronouns that are under the nominative case are he and she. So the correct way to say this sentence is, the grand prize winners are he and she. I know it doesn't sound right, but it is correct. Now let's look at an example with an appositive in it. The sentence is, the best debaters were the two brothers, Chris and him or he. Now we have a predicate nominative, but this time it's a noun, the noun brothers. But Chris and him or he are the appositives to that predicate nominative. Since a predicate nominative takes the nominative case, appositives to the predicate nominative must also use the nominative case. And when we look on the chart under nominative case, we see that the correct answer is he, not him. So the sentence is, the best debaters were the two brothers, Chris and he. Okay, now it's time for you to get a little practice. So I want you to complete sentences 5, 6, and 7 on the in-class practice sheet. Pause the video and then start it up again when you're ready to see my answers. Here are the answers for 5, 6, and 7. Number 5, the winner will be he. The announcers are he and she. The fastest runners on the team are the twins Joseph and he. I know this doesn't sound right because we say it incorrectly so much. Okay, so we've taken care of the nominative case, which we use for subjects, predicate nominatives, and appositives to those two things. So let's move on now to the next thing, which is the objective case. Notice that the objective case is used for direct objects, indirect objects, and objects of the preposition. So those should be pretty easy to remember because you've got the word object in each of those, and they use the objective case. So here's my slide where I've taken off that part about the objective case. And again, we have the singular and the plural in both in all of the first, second, and third person. Again, as I said before, these are used, the objective case is used for direct objects, indirect objects, and objects of the preposition. And then when you have appositives to any of those three things, then those appositives would also use the objective case. Now, if you just want a test sentence to know, okay, is that pronoun in the objective case? Something like, John went to the store with me, or with them, or with her. Okay, if you say this sentence, you're using that as the object of the preposition, and it'll force you to say it in the objective case. Now let's look at some examples here. In the first sentence, Jesus comforted them. Them is the direct object, and therefore we have to use the objective case, and them is a pronoun in the objective case. Number 2, Jesus gave them comfort. Now this time the word them is the indirect object, but still we use the objective case. And number 3, here's one of those where we have this coordinate, this conjunction. God loves you and I, or God loves you and me. Well, first of all, we have to identify that this pronoun, I or me, is the direct object of the sentence. Therefore, we would have to use the objective case. But we can also just test it by doing one or the other, rather than take out the you and. Would you say God loves I? No, you wouldn't. You would say God loves me. So it would be correct to say God loves you and me. Okay, let's look at some examples now with the positives. John showed us, or we, beginners, how to sail. Okay, now the us or we is the direct object of the sentence. Beginners is the appositive, but it kind of throws us off. So it's best to just take it out. Would we say John showed us how to sail, or John showed we how to sail? Well, obviously it's John showed us how to sail. So if we put back in the appositive, the correct sentence is John showed us beginners how to sail. Okay, now let's look at it where the pronoun is the appositive. Sam thanked the duet, Emily and she, or Emily and her. Emily and she or her are the duet. So they are the appositive to duet, which is the direct object. Well, since they're the appositive to the direct object, they have to be in the same case as the direct object. So they have to be in the objective case. When we look on our chart under objective case, we don't see she, we see her. And therefore the correct sentence is Sam thanked the duet, Emily and her. Okay, it's time now for you to do some practice. You're going to do sentences 8 through 12, but I want to tell you what I want you to write down. First, when you look at that pronoun, I want you to write the function that the pronoun is serving in the sentence. Is it the subject, the direct object, the predicate nominative? What is it doing in the sentence? And remember your noun flower or your pronoun flower. Those are all the things that a pronoun can do. Second, write down what pronoun case it is in. If it's the subject, you're going to need the nominative case. If it's the direct object, the objective case, and so on. Finally, write down the correct pronoun. Write down what the right answer would be. So I want you to go ahead and do number 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Pause the video right now, and when you're ready for the answers, go ahead and start it again. Okay, here's the answers for that. Dad advised him. Him is the direct object, so you have to use the objective case. Number 9, Dad gave him advice. This time the pronoun is the indirect object, so we still use the objective case. Number 10, the senator praised Eric and me. Me is a direct object, so you use the objective case. Number 11, the usher directed us visitors to our seats. Us is the direct object, and therefore you use the objective case. And number 12, he praised his business partners, Joe and him. Him is the appositive to the direct object, which is partners, and therefore you use the objective case. Now, the last few slides about objective case were if the pronoun was the direct object or the indirect object, or the appositive to one of those. But the other way that we need to, the other case, or the other time that we need to use the objective case is for objects of the preposition. Now here's an example. The nurse wrapped the blanket around his or him. Well, his or him is the object of the preposition. We have a preposition around. So we could look on our chart and say, okay, which of these, his or him, is in the objective case? And the answer is him, so the correct sentence is, the nurse wrapped the blanket around him. Now, if we have a compound object of the preposition that's joined by and, again, we're going to split it apart and just try one. So we've got our preposition with. He plans to study with they, or he plans to study with them. Well, we know that it's going to be them. It just obviously sounds right, but we can't always go by how it sounds. What we really need to know here is that they or them is the object of the preposition, and therefore we have to use the objective case. When we look at our chart, we see that them is the objective case pronoun of these two. Okay, just like the others, we have to talk about appositives now. So appositives to the object of the preposition. For example, the pictures were shown to we photographers or us photographers. Now we have the preposition to, so we or us would be the object of the preposition, and then photographers would be the appositive to that. Now we can either just go look at our chart and say, okay, this is the object of the preposition, I have to use the objective case, that has to be us, or we can test it by leaving off that appositive. Would we say the pictures were shown to we, or the pictures were shown to us? Obviously, again, it's going to be us, but that is because it's the object of the preposition and we have to use the objective case. Okay, let's look at it now if our pronoun is the appositive. The exam was taken by several people. Andrea, Jacob, and I or me. Well, we have our preposition by, we have our object of the preposition people, but then Andrea, Jacob, and I or me is the appositive to the object of the preposition. The appositive to the object of the preposition has to be in the same case as the object of the preposition. That's the objective case, so we have to use the objective case pronoun, which would be me. Okay, time for you to give this a try. Again, I want you to write down the function that the pronoun is serving. I want you to write down the case that it's in, and then write down the correct pronoun. Do 13 through 16. Pause the video until you have your answers and then start it up again. Okay, here are your answers. The helicopter circled about them. That's the object of the preposition, so it's in the objective case. They sent a letter to Carl and him. Again, the objective case. Mr. Turner read the instructions to us students. That's the object of the preposition, so it needs to be the objective case. And attendance awards were given to several students, Jim, Mary, and him. That's the appositive to the object of the preposition students and has to be in the objective case. Okay, we're ready to look at the third and final case. That is the possessive case. And that's just the case that shows possession, that someone owns something. Now, these come in two forms. Sometimes these pronouns, these possessive pronouns, are used as adjectives, and those are listed here and they're underlined. Other times they're just acting as pronouns, and those are the ones that are listed in bold here, and we'll look at those a little more here in just a minute. Again, I just listed them separately here, both the singular and plural, first, second, and third persons. Again, they show ownership or relationship to, and our test sentences would be something like, this is my dog or their dog. That's when it's being used as an adjective, and notice that there's always going to be a noun right after it because adjectives need nouns. The other way they can be used is as possessive pronouns. That dog is yours. That dog is his. They're not acting as adjectives, they're just acting as pronouns then. So what's important here is that you're able to identify these possessive pronouns and what they're doing in the sentence. Are they working as adjectives or are they simply pronouns? In the first sentence, you have my coat and your gloves are the same color. Notice that both of those pronouns in blue are coming right before a noun, and that's the key that shows that they are acting as an adjective. In number 2, yours was the best answer. In that case, that pronoun doesn't come right before a noun, and therefore it's acting as a pronoun. Number 3, his plan and mine were rejected at first, but his was later accepted. Both of the first his here is coming right before plan, and therefore it's modifying that noun and acting as an adjective. So the last thing you need to do on your in-class practice sheet is identify these two pronouns, his and mine, and mark whether or not they're acting as an adjective or just as a pronoun. And here's the answer for that. His boat is modifying and telling me whose boat it is. His boat was old, but mine was older. Mine is acting as a pronoun. It's not modifying a noun. So that's the end of this lecture. We covered a lot of material, learned a lot about these 3 different cases and all the ways that they're used. Make sure you understand this chart, and you may use that as you're doing your work this week, but you won't be able to use it on a quiz or a test, so make sure that you're learning it well. Next week we'll talk about the who, whoever, whom, whomever, whose and whose, and all that stuff at the bottom with the whos.